Good evening. It's now 6 p.m. and the regular session of the Planning Commission of the City of Lancaster. Please come to order. Tonight I will offer the invocation. The pledge will be led by Commissioner Cook. If you'd all please stand. Shall we all pray together? Our Father God, thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed on our community of Lancaster. We pray today for our friends and colleagues who are beginning a new journey. We pray for Chun Ing and his family as they begin their journey to the city of Santa Maria, where Chun will become the planning manager for that city. We also pray for Marion Coleman, who is retiring today, last Friday, actually, as she begins her retirement journey with her family. We will always cherish their friendship and their commitment to our community. We also honor and pray for those serving members of the armed forces. Remember and are grateful for those who serve, and especially for those who sacrifice life and limb for the freedoms we all enjoy in this great country. Father God, we humbly ask you to help us for your guidance and identify the problems we can rectify in our community. Guide us in our efforts to fairly administer the Planning Commission objectives. Help us to use our time and energy wisely, not to waste it on insignificant matters that benefit no one. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have the roll call, please?
Commissioners Diana Cook.
Present.
Miguel Coronado.
Here.
Cassandra Harvey.
Present.
Drew Mercy.
Present.
Sandy Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Hall. Absent. Chairman James Bowes.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, and welcome to our newest commissioner who was sworn in this afternoon, Andrew Mercy, as we know him. Welcome to our happy group.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to working with everybody and serving the residents of our city.
Some rules of the road. Most of you folks have probably been here before, but just as a reminder, we have public business from the floor when the agenda items are announced. Individual speakers are offered a period of 3 minutes each to discuss those particular agenda items. If you'd please fill out a speaker's card, which you'll find in the rear of the chamber if you'd care to address us. And we'll give you a 3-minute time frame to address the issues that you would like to talk about. We also offer a short period of time for individual speakers who may not be able to stay for the entire meeting. And I'm not sure if we have any early speaker requests.
None that have indicated, Mr. Chairman.
Very good then. Also, this commission meets twice a month, typically the week prior to this public meeting. We meet a week prior to this. It's a staff meeting. It is held in public. However, we don't typically take public testimony, and we certainly don't deliberate. We listen to staff's comments relative to the proposed agenda before us. We have our individual questions asked and answered, and we individually may give direction to staff. Other than that, however, it's primarily a staff briefing. For the record tonight, we have before us a considerable amount of correspondence on items number 3 and 4 on the agenda, comment letters and various information that was dropped on us today. Those who, I certainly haven't had an opportunity to read them, but thank you for those communications. We also have a letter not directed to us, but compiled by the interim director of the County of Los Angeles Public Health Department dated September 9, 2015. Any other correspondence?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. First action item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 21st, 2016. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of November 21st, 2016.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
All right, thank you. Next item is item 2, which is a continued public hearing. This hearing was held last meeting as well, and the public hearing continues to be open on an amendment to the Lancaster Municipal Code, Title 15 and 17, regarding zero net energy standards for new single-family residential, I should say, development. We have a staff report tonight from Deputy City Manager Jason Cottle. Welcome.
Chairman DeVos, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. I'm honored to be presenting tonight with Patty Garibay as well. And I know you've had extensive conversations on this, so we'll keep it as brief as possible. We want to make sure that we communicate as much as we can about the changes because they are important. As you know, first things first. As you turn the power on. As you know, the mayor has, for a number of years, set a very high, lofty goal of being the first zero net energy community in the nation and the world. And we worked aggressively at accomplishing that. As you recall, we've done a number of solar facilities on city facilities to the point where we're 100% net zero as a city. So every kilowatt of energy that we're buying as a city comes from renewable energy. We've worked on Solar Lancaster, where we've encouraged residents to put them on their homes to substantial individual savings for folks. We've and most recently launched Lancaster Choice Energy, which is providing greener energy at a more affordable cost to all of our residents, currently about 94% of them. And your commission has approved a 1 kilowatt requirement to be mandatory on every new solar home. We feel that these changes are the next logical progression in that mission and that effort. And we believe that we've done this, and as you'll see when Patty explains, we've done this in a very equitable fashion, taking into account many stakeholders, specifically the Building Industry Association, and most importantly, looked out for the customer at the end of the day, or the resident at the end of the day that we're going to have for a number of years, as going to be our citizen for forever. We've taken them into account in this process as well. The most important story about all those things we did is we've done them without increasing the cost to the taxpayer. In fact, we've actually saved the taxpayer in every one of the efforts that we've undergone, from providing energy to going solar on our own facilities and asking residents to go solar on their homes. In each case, it has been financially beneficial to our residents and our taxpayers. Again, that was very key in accomplishing the mayor's goals. Anybody can go green and be net zero if you throw a lot of money at it. The mission he gave us was do this and do it cost effectively, and do it on behalf of the citizens and make it beneficial for them. The key changes tonight, and Patty will go over them in detail, but basically we're asking the builders to require a minimum of 2 kilowatts or 2 watts installed per square foot, making it a net zero home. We'll be providing them 3 options to do that. One is to do it fully solar, the other is to do it with a mitigation fee, and one is to do it in hybrid with a combination of mitigation fee and solar. Patty will go over those in detail. And the key component to this change that we've undergone over the last couple of weeks is actually removing the requirement for rear yard landscaping. In communicating with the stakeholders, the rear yard landscaping was an amenity that adds value, adds cost to the home. as well as from in the conversations doesn't add value to the homeowner at the end of the day. So one of the offsets in cost and requiring the new requirement is actually removing the need for the rear yard landscaping. And so those are the major changes. Patty's going to go over them in detail. So if we have any questions, we'll all be able to answer those for you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Patty Garibay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm delighted to be here tonight. As Jason mentioned, what we're recommending is a requirement to install a minimum of 2 kilowatts per square foot of each new home that's built starting in 2017, and we do have 3 options for meeting that ZNE requirement. Jason is right. We had a lot of conversations both with the Planning Commission as well as the building industry and local developers to ask them, what are some concerns, what are some things that we need to work through to basically create a win-win situation. And we're pretty proud of what we came up with. We created 3 options that we think are very viable. We'll actually go through the funding side of it and what that looks like. But each of these options will be a win-win for everyone involved. I know it's a little hard to see, but as Jason mentioned, the first option that we came up with is a straight solar option. So basically what the developer or the builder would do is they would install 2 watts of solar per square foot of home built. For a 2,500 square foot home, that would be a 5 kilowatt system. Now, one of the benefits of that particular option, and one of the things that we mentioned at our last meeting is that the state is actually changing their Title 24 energy requirements. So starting January 1st of 2017, builders will have to build homes that are 15% more efficient. With this option 1, a builder would essentially meet that 15% requirement because it's an either or. So if they do the 15% requirement, they have met the requirement. If they do 2 kilowatts of solar, then they do not have to meet the 15%. It's either or. So with this first option, they're installing 2 kilowatts minimum. They're not meeting that special energy efficiency requirement, and the homeowner obviously has a lower energy bill or a non-existent bill because they're net zero. The second option, because again we want to have options for our builders, is a straight mitigation fee. So what that is the builder would normally put a 5 kilowatt system on a 2,500 square foot home, and so what they would do is pay a mitigation fee equal to that 5 kilowatts. We worked with our solar community to figure out what the construction costs are for utility scale solar projects. The number that we came up with is $1.40 per watt, and so we multiplied that, and that's how we came up with a mitigation fee for that particular option. In that option, one thing I do want to point out is the builder would have to meet the Title 24 energy efficiency requirements. Finally, again, in providing lots of options to our builders and an incentive, and I'm sorry, I forgot to point out, for the second option, the win-win for the customer, for the resident, is that they actually get a reduced energy bill. As an LCE, a Lancaster Choice Energy customer, they're able to get a 50% savings on their energy. So that can be a pretty substantial savings for our customers. Going back to option 3, that's basically a hybrid. So it's the builder would install 2 kilowatt system so that they are exempt from meeting the Title 24 energy efficiency requirements. Depending on how big that house is, they would basically pay a mitigation fee equal to whatever the difference is for that house. Again, the win is that they do not have to build that, or they are not. They don't have to build the 15% energy efficiency requirement, and the homeowner gets a reduced energy bill. The commission was very interested in seeing a cost breakdown, and so that's exactly what we did. We did a cost breakdown for 4 different scenarios, but I'm going to focus in on the 2,500 square foot home. And we shared this with the Planning Commission. We also shared this with the building industry as well as the local builders, and they were able to provide us a lot of good feedback, which helped us make our numbers more real, more accurate to what they actually are paying out in the market. So if we look at the 2,500 square foot home, what we estimate is that a 5 kilowatt system, which is what they would need for that home, would cost $20,000. That's based on a going rate right now of about $4,000 per kilowatt. So that's $20,000. In our last conversation, we talked about a tax credit incentive that's available to both builders and also to homeowners who decide to install solar, and the builders would be eligible for that, and so we deducted that $6,000 from the $20,000. Again, because the builder would not be required to meet that Title 24 energy efficiency requirement, they would be saving $3,750. And the way that we came up with that number is actually through conversations with the building industry and with developers. They said that what they estimate is that they pay $1.50 to $2 on construction costs per square foot. So we actually took the lower of those numbers, the $1.50, and we multiplied that by the by the square footage of that house and came up with the $3,750. As Jason mentioned, the city already has an ordinance which requires 1 kilowatt of solar, and so we went ahead and deducted, the $4,000 that would cost to build that 1 kilowatt minus the 30% ITC credit, so that's a $2,800 deduction there. The city does charge a solar inspection fee, which is included, $199. And finally, again, conversations and trying to create a win-win situation, something that is not going to cost builders any money and is not going to cost the homeowner any money and is going to create a good situation for everyone. We deducted $6,000 for not having to comply with the landscape requirement for the rear yard landscaping, and that number was also a number that we got through local builders who said that on average they paid between $6,000 and $8,000 to do a rear landscaping. So in total, for a home that is, the option 1 full solar, that would cost the builder $1,649, which equals out to $66 per square foot. That's for the full solar option. If we look at option 2, this is
66 cents, right?
66 cents, sorry. Thank you, 66 cents. Option 2 is our mitigation fee. I will run through this just so that we all see this, but mitigation fee is $1.40 per square foot. Excuse me, multiply that by your kilowatt hours, that's $3,500. Construction costs to comply with the 2016 standard, which again, this is a number that the building industry and local builders provided. The ordinance that already requires us to do solar is deducted from there, savings for not complying with the landscape requirement. And so you get a negative, $1,550, which is actually a savings for a builder if they were to choose to use this option for a 2,500 square foot home. Now the final option is our hybrid, and the hybrid is a solar and mitigation fee. Solar system, for a 2 kilowatt system, we anticipate that costing $8,000. The ITC credit would be $2,400. Mitigation fee to make up the difference between the 2 and the 5, which would be required, is $2,100. The ordinance requiring, savings for not complying with the 2016 standard, $3,750 is deducted from there. The ordinance requiring 1 kilowatts is deducted, our inspection fee, and the savings for not complying with the landscape requirement. So in this scenario, the builder is actually saving $4,651. Or $1.86 per square foot. So the exciting news in all of these options is that, as you can see, there's savings for the builder. It's a win-win, right? The builder gets to continue to sell the homes at a price that is that's reasonable for our community. The consumer wins because they get solar on their home and they're now paying a lower energy bill, and they're paying that for the duration of their time in their home. And the city continues to pursue its zero net energy goals. Something else that the Planning Commission was very interested in seeing is how solar compares with, just regular domestic customers. And we did we provided or created 3 different exhibits for this to show the savings. So if you look at the green column, domestic customer, what we did is we actually took homes that were in the same neighborhood, built by the same builder. These are all new homes built in 2014, very new homes, but we looked at how much energy was used over a year's course. So if you look at the domestic, the green side, at the end of 1 full year, this customer that lives in a 2,500 square foot home paid just under $1,000 as a regular Southern California Edison Lancaster Choice Energy customer. If you look on the right side, and the interesting thing about this comparison is this solar system is a 5.1 kilowatt system, which is actually on target with what we're recommending, 5 kilowatts for a 2,500 square foot home. And this customer ended up paying $39 at the end of a full year. So the savings are pretty substantial. That's the first comparison. The second comparison is for a 3,000 square foot home. Same thing, on the left-hand side, we have our traditional domestic customer. At the end of the year, they ended up paying just under $2,000 for their energy. That's both for the transmission and the delivery and the actual energy charges. And if you look on the right-hand side, the NEMD solar customer, they paid $584 for the year. Now, one thing to point out in this comparison is that their system is a 5.1 kilowatt system, which is smaller than what we're recommending. So for this size home, a 3,000 square foot home, we're recommending a 6 kilowatt system. So what that tells us is that we're right on track, right? If they would have had a bigger system, that number would have shrunk and they would have saved a lot more money. And finally, we have the comparison for a 3,500 square foot home. Same thing on the left-hand side, domestic customer. They paid just under $1,800 for the year. Now, the interesting part interesting thing for this customer is they actually ended up saving money at the end of the year. And this system is actually sized a little bit smaller than what we would suggest through this, through our ordinance. But this customer still saved a lot of money. One of the things that we figured and that we know is that solar systems it's not an exact science. It really, usage plays a lot into it. And so, for this particular home, you might have less people living in the home. Perhaps they don't have any, big appliances, or they don't have a pool or anything like that consumes a lot of energy. But at the end of the day, they ended up saving a lot of money. And the thing that we want to point out also is that no matter what, in all the comparisons where the customer has solar on their house, they're saving money. That's putting money back in our residents' pockets, which allows them to do other things, whether that be do something with their families, save money. It puts money back into our residents' pockets, and that's important to point out. So what are the next steps? So with your approval tonight, this would now move on to the City Council for a reading on January 10th at their next meeting. Because this, what we're entertaining tonight is a REACH code. It's something that is above and beyond what the California Energy Commission Title 24 requires at this time. We would be required to do a cost and feasibility study, and I believe Brian mentioned at our last meeting that we anticipate that taking between 3 and 4 months. Obviously, we would need approval from the CEC to make this a mandatory requirement here in town. And, just to touch on what Jason mentioned about statewide policy, that we have a really unique opportunity here as a CCA, as a community choice aggregator. We have an opportunity to make policies or create a policy that can really do something good for builders throughout the state when this becomes a mandatory requirement. The CEC is actually looking for different ways of achieving this goal. And so this might be an opportunity for us to provide some insight. Finally, the numbers that we provided tonight would be subject to a mitigation fee study to make sure that they are on board and, that we're not overcharging, undercharging. Somebody would actually do that independent study for us and then create the actual fees or verify those fees. In conclusion, I just wanted to mention that, I do believe that the recommendation that we are providing tonight really is a win-win for everybody in the community. We heard the building community loud and clear. We heard the Planning Commission. We wanted to create something that was not going to create an additional burden. It's very important to continue building houses, to continue to provide that for residents. And, as you can see from the numbers, by removing the landscape requirement, we're able to do that, and we're able to do something good for the community and provide residents with something that's going to benefit them not only in the short term but in the long term. They're going to save on their energy. They're going to be able to do other things with that money and do good things in our community. So we really believe it's a win-win, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, Ms. Garibay, you've spent a lot of time with us and us with you over the last few weeks on this particular subject. I just want to take this moment to thank you for your efforts and all the hard work. Some of it has been rather challenging, I think, putting up with some of our questions and directions. But you've stood by your task and developed, I think, a very comprehensive program that's easy to understand, at least after 6 sessions. I think I've got it now. There may be questions from members here. I'm not sure. Anyone?
No, Chairman Vos, I'd just like to echo what Jim is saying. A lot of us was a little resistant in the beginning and wanted to see the numbers. I'm a numbers, fact-based person, especially in my industry. And with a lot of the growth that's coming to our community, I know that we want to make sure that we're concentrating on smart growth, right? So I think we're taking the necessary steps in this community, with the mayor and the council. I think that this puts us in the right direction. So thank you for going through a lot of this with us.
Very good. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm sure we have speakers on this matter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have one noted as favoring and one that did not mark either box, so I'll take the one favoring first. Merle McClernand.
All right, thank you. Welcome back, Merle.
Welcome back. And welcome, Drew. We're ready for some fun? Thank you for listening to me again. It's about time we do this. It needs to be done as an architect. I think it's necessary. It's doable. We're leading by example. It's consistent with our climate action plan that we're working with. Okay. It's a challenge to me as a designer, as an architect, to get it to work without spending everybody's money. Some great numbers up there. The 2 watts per square foot, question, is that fixed? So we have an option to design, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
And it's actually written into the information that we've created. So if a builder can show that they can meet the Z&E with a smaller system, then yes, they would
Okay.
have that option.
Yeah, because one example had 1.77 watts per square foot, and it worked. Another one had just under 2, and it failed. Well, they probably had a pool and a gazebo and everything else. So really, it needs to be designed. So if that opportunity is in there, the top number that you had up there becomes a zero sum. And they're fully Z&E for 2020's code now. So it can be done. Ultimately, sustainability is also economic. Let's face it. If you can't afford to build them, it's not going to happen. I think we're very, very close here. So definitely in favor of it, and I accept the challenge to design them. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your comments.
DeAndre Valencia.
Mr. Valencia, welcome back.
Congratulations, Mr. Commissioner Mercy. Let me introduce myself. My name is DeAndre Valencia, and I'm with the Building Industry Association of Southern California, representing the Los Angeles Ventura County chapter. More specifically, we're over here representing KB Homes, Beazer Homes, Epic Company, as well as Pacific Communities, who are building in Lancaster. I want to say thank you to the staff working with you, Brian, Patty, Jason, and Mark. Thank you for everything. You guys have been awesome. We thank you. We submitted a recommendation or a comment letter in regards to this net zero energy motion, and we thank you for including the removing the backyard landscaping. And I just want to make sure that's for all 3 options, correct? Across the board? Okay. Also within that comment letter, we also requested a couple other items. One, if we can get a grandfather clause, which would exempt any of the projects that have final recorded maps, so they can go on as planned. Also, we would ask for for the payment of the mitigation fee to be at the C of O, the certificate of occupancy, as opposed to when you pull building permits. The reason for that is because when we pay up front, when we pull the permits, we have to get a much larger amount of money financed. And so if we can get that, the certificate of occupancy, we won't have to get that money financed, and we'll pay it as we sell the homes. And so I thank you for everything, and if there's any questions, we'll go from there.
All right, you've had an opportunity to read the ordinance then and had your questions answered clearly on what this is proposed. However, you're suggesting a grandfather clause.
Yes.
I'm a grandfather. Now, my understanding might be different than yours. Could you care to expand on that?
Basically, if a project has went through their mapping process and has recorded final maps, we ask for them to be exempt from this ordinance so they can so they can be exempt from the ordinance. So it would be new projects that come into Lancaster will be subjected to this new ordinance.
Any idea how many of those are? How many maps? How many lots those are?
I couldn't tell you off the hand. I know you guys.
Approximately.
I don't know, 30 maps, if that.
30 maps or 30 lots?
30 lots, I believe.
Really?
I couldn't tell you the exact number off my head, to be correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ludicky, care to comment?
I don't know how many lots that is either, but I'll say this. Building codes, which this would be a part of, as well as, fee requirements and everything are not normally based on the date that a map records. It is based on the time that a building is submitted for plan check and a permit is issued on it. So I would not recommend that as an approach.
That would be the suggestion that has been offered would be totally different than our current operation.
Correct.
So it would place a different level of administration to monitor that piece and part of the proposal, huh?
Yes, it would. And to just give you an example of how this works, Patty mentioned in her presentation that beginning January 1st, there are new energy codes under Title 24 that go into effect from the state of California. Those apply to any building permit, basically, that's issued after that date. There's no grandfathering provision that the state offers for recorded lots or anything of that type. So because this is really along the same vein, I couldn't see that as being a viable approach.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I can chime in, we have approximately 1,000 recorded lots in the
That's what I
city of
thought.
Lancaster.
Okay, thank you. So given the historical development process in our community for single-family detached tract-built homes, given our current last 3 years, if we quadrupled that, we'd still be 5 years out before we ever instituted any provision as proposed tonight. That'd be about right? Maybe longer?
Yes, that's inventory for several years, including into 2020 and beyond.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other speakers?
No other cards, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments from staff? Nope. Ms. Garibay? Nope. All right. Thank you. So then, without objection, the public hearing is closed on this matter, and we'll consider a motion on the recommendation.
I'd like to make a recommendation to the City Council to adopt an ordinance amending Titles 15 and 17 of the Lancaster Municipal Code to establish requirements for consideration of zero net energy single-family residence.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. With Commissioner Hall absent. The next item 3 and item 3 and item 4, we're going to open the public hearing on both these items. They are in different locations, however, they're the same applicant. And the staff report tonight will be offered by Ms. Swain.
Chairman Bose and Commissioners, what you have before you tonight are two proposed solar facilities, one on 307 acres for approximately 50 megawatts, and that one is bound by 95th Street West, 100th Street West, Avenue F and Avenue G. And immediately contiguous to that to the west is 1607, which is a 107-acre, 15-megawatt solar facility, roughly bounded by Avenue F, Avenue F4, and Avenue F8, depending upon the location, 100th Street West and 105th Street West. At this time, staff is requesting a continuance of this public hearing due to the volume of comment letters that have been received so that we can adequately go through them and address any concerns that may have been raised.
All right. Very good. I briefly read into the record the stack of material. However, besides community members, what were some of the other pieces of correspondence? What other
So
source?
we have a mix of comment letters, both form and non-form letters submitted by members of the community. We have comment letters in favor of the project submitted by the community. We have comment letters from the Antelope Valley Resource Conservation District with information. We have information submitted by the Antelope Valley Working Group on Dust. We have a comment letter submitted by a Native American tribe that we need to look into a little bit more. We have a request from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife for an extension. And we have a comment letter from the Water Board.
Okay. Thank you. Well, since we have a number of folks who have taken the time to come visit with us tonight and would like to make comment, that's why we're holding the public hearing open tonight. And we will hear your comments, certainly, and if it's the commission's pleasure, we'll either act on the matter or agree with staff and continue the matter. So we'd like to avail everyone the opportunity who has filled out a speaker's card to address us tonight. So appreciate you being here. Do we have any questions before we hear speakers? No? Yes? No? All right.
Okay. To reiterate, Mr. Chairman, both items 3 and 4 are open.
Yes.
Several people have submitted speakers cards for both, but because the projects are essentially adjacent to each other, I think it would be appropriate for them to be able to comment on either one or both.
I think that's appropriate. Yes, thank you.
Okay. I will begin with the ones noted as favoring project applicant representing S-Power, Garrett Bean.
Mr. Bean, the applicant, evening and welcome.
Good evening, Chairman, fellow commissioners. Congratulations, Mr. Mercy. I just wanted to I'm not going to go into too much detail on the project today. I just wanted to introduce myself not only to some of you, but also to the community. If there are any questions that you may have, please feel free to stay after. I know a lot of you will be voicing your concerns tonight, so S-Power is here to listen, and we will take what you have to say into account. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Mitch Klein.
Mr. Klein, evening, welcome.
Good evening, Chairman, fellow commissioners. My name is Mitch Klein. I'm a business representative for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and I'm here to stand before you to talk about what these projects have meant to not only our members, but to the community in what's been done so far. So right now, the solar projects that have been done already along 90th Street, we've had over 1,200 people working on those projects. I'd say 80% of those people are local residents, and that's what we go by, local hire. We've hired veterans. We have a program called Helmets to Hard Hats, and there's a big push on bringing these soldiers that have represented our country back and giving them jobs, and giving them not just jobs but a career, and not just to our veterans, but we also look at risk youths, our kids that might not be college bound. We're giving them an opportunity for these careers, and these have provided great careers, and God bless S-Power for a lot of these projects that they've done already. They kept a lot of our kids from, or not just kids, just people in general, from losing their homes, having their cars repossessed, going through divorces, having their families displaced. People we brought in that were homeless now that have a job, have a career, and have a place to stay. That's what we represent. And we have a very good rapport right now with S-Power and some of these other developers that are working these projects. We put these people in programs that are a 5-year apprenticeship or 7-year apprenticeship programs, depending on which program they enter. And like I said, they're not just jobs, they're the careers. These are much needed jobs, and we hope to continue the progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Next speaker, please.
Mike Kufchak. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Evening, is it Mr. Kupchak?
Mr. Mike Kufchak.
Oh, like...
Good evening, Chairman,
like
Commissioners. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I'd like to extend that to everybody else in the room, too. Merry Christmas, everybody. All right, great. Well, I've had the pleasure of just hearing Mr. Klein speak and actually dabbled a little bit into what it is that I do. I would like to introduce myself again one more time. My formal title is Sergeant Major Mike Kufchak. I'm a retired Marine from the Marine Corps. I served 32 years. I'm the former Sergeant Major of the 1st Marine Division down at Camp Pendleton, California, where I led 26,000 Marines alongside of Lieutenant General Ron Bailey. With that being said, I've served in both OIF and OEF theaters of operation, and I currently sit on the Antelope Valley Veterans Employment Committee as the treasurer as well, too. And specifically what I wanted to speak about this evening is veterans and how this project, favorably approved, can benefit our veterans up here in the Antelope Valley. I currently represent the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 11. We have the largest apprenticeship in the nation. We currently have over 1,600 apprentices. And over the past 2.5 years, I was hired on as the Director of Veterans Affairs. I was able to actually induce and incorporate 400 veterans into the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, of which 85 actually came out of the Antelope Valley up here, that we were able to provide careers for here in the Antelope Valley, which I think is a very, very good thing. Now, with that being said, as Mitch Klein stated, these are not jobs, but these are careers. And I'm talking about a career where a single family member, a husband or a wife, can go to work and actually support their family off of one job, rather than coming home and having multiple jobs, 2 and 3 jobs, to support their families, to provide health care and the intangibles, the things that we need that are absolutely necessary in our lives to survive, which is very, very good. And again, as stated, these are careers, not jobs. By incorporating these veterans from this community here into these programs, or into this trade, so to speak, allows a great deal of great advantage. We speak tremendously about local hire. We also speak about disadvantaged workers. These veterans are also what I would almost even consider disadvantaged workers. They've served this nation. They've put their lives on hold to go forth and do great things for this nation. They didn't opt to go to college, but what they've decided to do was come back home and reintegrate into society. What better way for us to receive them with warm, welcoming arms than to provide them great careers here locally within their communities right here. This community is a diamond up here. Not only Lancaster, but Palmdale as well, too. And we have a lot of veterans returning back to these communities. Why? Because of the close-knit community, but it's also affordable living as well, too. So I would ask you to favorably consider approving this project. Thank you very much.
Sergeant Major, thank you, and thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
There's a couple of veterans sitting up here on this dais.
Yes, sir.
Recognize your sacrifice.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Next speaker,
John,
please.
Yes, John Dewar.
Mr. Dewar, and welcome.
Thank you very much. And I might want to add real quick here, thank you to the members who were veterans for your service. I represent, if you will, the workers on these projects. Just the other night, I was asked to take a picture with me and a few others. I've been a steward on these projects. My name and a $2.25 will get you a cup of coffee at, AM, PM. However, I have seen people who've ranked very low, who have no future, proud to be working. That's what these projects have done. They've given people a hope in life. I'm very proud to help them. Not only just people from the local area, but Mr. Kuchev, we're representing people who have been in the military and they now have a career. I couldn't be any more proud than to be up here speaking for them. These projects are a great thing. I've been on them since 2011, and they've done well for everybody and helped the community and helped the nation, which is what we're here for. So, I'm in favor of these projects. And I hope this wonderful commission is in favor too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Another speaker?
Yes, Dave Gomez.
Mr. Gomez. Good evening, welcome back.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Dave Gomez. I represent the National Electrical Contractors Association, NIBW. We got about 400 electrical contractors in LA County and about 14,000 members in LA County. One of the things is I live in the Antelope Valley. Went through the apprenticeship over 30 years ago. Don't guess my age. But one of the things is when I got out of high school, I went to junior college. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. One day I took a friend to go take a test. I took it with him. I got an apprenticeship. I ended up having a whole career. Been good to me. Been in since 19. That's all I know is electrical work. But I know one thing is there's nothing better than giving a young man or a young woman a job and then working for a career, because it can go anywhere. So I'm in favor of these projects. So I just want to thank you and give you, please vote yes on these projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, those were all the ones I had favoring. Opposing, Julie Shooter.
Hi, good evening.
Ms. Shooter, welcome.
Thank you. My name's Julie Shooter. I'm with the Antelope Valley Dust Control Group. We're a small nonprofit based in Antelope Acres. And I've never been here to talk to you guys before about any solar projects, but this project specifically is different. And I'd like to sort of talk about that with you guys. So to highlight some of the major discrepancies within the initial study, I'd like to start with 3B. It's on page 29. And actually, I did give you some supporting documentation as well, so I think that's what you saw there.
You filed your comments in writing, have you?
I did as well.
That's great.
Yes.
That's
But-
very important. Thank you.
You also have a packet there in front of you that I handed you guys. So there are a couple of things I'll reference here quickly.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so 3B, it's actually impossible to know or to prove whether or not this project's going to violate air quality standards or contribute to existing violations because there's no air quality monitor near the site. The air quality monitor is in downtown Lancaster, and the site is in Antelope Acres. So with the thousands and thousands of acres that have been turned into solar and no reporting to CARB anywhere near those sites, we can't take data or collect data to even decide whether or not that's possible, 3B. 3D talks about exposing sensitive receptors to substantial pollutant concentrations. That's on page 29 and 30. Again, this is an especially sensitive site. It's not like others you've seen before. It's the site of the largest stabilization project of its kind in the history of the valley. And it's huge. It was chosen because of the severity, the extreme high winds, and the fact that there's a community directly downwind of the site. It's 0.1 of a mile. Basically, it's on the other side of the fence. There are hundreds of people who live there, and since 1992, the site has been disturbed 3 times, and every time those people were exposed to the effects of fugitive dust. It's going to happen again. My business partner, his name's Chatton Coward. He's an expert in the field. He worked on those projects for years with some other people that are actually here in the room now. And they would all, I think, or I know my partner would agree, and he's also submitted a comment opposing the project. It's not like other projects. 6B, the project states, actually I'll quote something. It says here, the project sites are rated as having a none to slight risk for soil erosion based on USDA maps when cultivated or cleared of vegetation. I've actually submitted a USDA map and a table for you guys. It's highly erodible soil. It's listed very clearly on a table that's there for your use. And the last was 19C. The environmental effects will definitely cause substantial adverse effects on human beings. I'd really like to ask that you review the history of the site and really consider the health and safety of the people who live in Antelope Acres over any revenue.
Very good. And just for everyone's understanding, typically we'll ask staff to respond when everybody's done to these items.
Sure.
These are all, a lot of these are very technical, and we may ask staff to comment individually. However, if staff has not had an opportunity to review your comments in sufficient, with sufficient time in advance, it's really inappropriate for us to ask those for their opinion because they haven't studied it.
Sure.
So you folks may not hear much response from either the commission or staff tonight because some of this information is new information to us. All right, so everybody understands that. All right, Ms. Swing, do you care to comment now or no?
The only thing I would say is, yes, I do have her comment letter.
Yes,
I
all
have
right, very
received
good.
it.
Go ahead. Next speaker, please.
Yes.
Thank you, by the way.
Sally Grimm.
Say the last name again, please.
Grimm.
Ms. Grimm, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm a resident of Antelope Acres for about 15 years, and it's gone from wonderful to like so crummy. I didn't plan on speaking, but I couldn't sit there and not say anything. Jason and Patty talked about saving money and energy. This plan is about taking away our lives and the value of our homes. When I look out my front door now, all I see is gray on the hillside in Quartz Hill, all the solar panels reflecting.
It's actually Lancaster, but you can call
Quartz
it Quartz
Hill?
Hill if you
Oh,
want.
sorry. Yeah. No, Antelope Acres too, yeah. But it's so frustrating. When I drive like 2 miles from my house, the sand or the dirt is going over chain link fences. It's like a war zone. It's just so upsetting. And I don't see how the solar fields, I know it benefits workers, but it's a short-term job. I'm sorry, but it is only for a few months. Once the solar fields are up and running, those guys go find another job. And we're stuck with wind blowing the dirt everywhere. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grimm. Have another speaker, Ms. Fluticke?
Yes, Patricia Hodgman.
Ms. Hodgman, welcome.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. I too, I haven't submitted anything, but neither I or many of my neighbors got any kind of notification that this solar farm was going in until I heard about it on the Antelope Acres Facebook community page. And I was really upset because it's about 2 miles due southwest of my property, and I know that how that wind blows right at my home. And I can only imagine how the people on 93rd Street feel knowing that it's at 95th and how that's going to blow onto them. I'm all for renewable energy, but it's ugly. It would be great if they could put it out from where communities actually are and where homeowners have their property, their animals, their children, their families. Also, just the danger of perhaps valley fever getting, trudged up out there is a concern. My neighbor's dog almost died of it a few years ago. It is in the valley. You all know this. And to have this kind of project so close to our community is really a concern. Also, a lot of us own horses. We love riding right out Avenue, going right out Avenue F. It's going to have this big, I'm sorry, but ugly thing right next to where we enjoy our desert lands. Now, I don't own those lands, but I don't particularly want to see all that out there. I didn't move out there to look at solar farms. And like I said, I'm for renewable energy, but I'm very concerned that it's all going up around residences and Delcer School. And I don't know about EMFs that much, but I certainly know people that are really sensitive to electromagnetic fields. I don't know how that impacts people from the solar farms, but it is a concern, I think. And I think that's about all I have to say. I'm really unhappy that Lancaster's looking at putting such a big project right near our community, and it is going to affect the value of our homes, and that's very upsetting.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgman.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mary Lou Nelson.
Ms. Nelson? Welcome.
Thank you. Chairman Vos and Commissioners, many of us are here tonight because we feel as though we're being invaded. And the invasion is ongoing, and it's happening both at the Lancaster City level and the Los Angeles County level. So I would like to reiterate, I know the package that was submitted to you by the Antelope Acres Town Council contained a letter that was authored by Cynthia Harding, who was the interim director of the Los Angeles County Public Health Department. That letter was requested by, Antonovich. In June of last year, the Renewable Energy Ordinance was passed. It has since been in the hands of the County Council. It was approved last Tuesday. It will go into effect on January the 12th of next year. And I'd like to reiterate the one sentence that is important to all of us. And that is that valley fever is endemic to soils in California. It should be presumed that these organisms are present in the soils in these developmental zones. Without the need for soil testing, this presumption can be addressed by site-specific plans for adequate fugitive dust suppression for all new developments according to the rules of the AQMD in order to meet worker safety standards established by the California Office of Occupational Health and Safety. We residents of Antelope Acres have chosen to live in a rural environment. With the transmission lines being so close to our community, we've been targeted by not only the county, but the city. This particular project, 1602 and 07, is adjacent to one of the more populated areas. We do believe that we need an EIR. We don't feel that an M&D is going to be sufficient to cover our needs for the health and safety of our residents. And we'd appreciate it very much if S-Power would abandon this project. We know that's not very likely, but as a minimum, we would like to see air quality management in the fact that we don't have any monitors in our community, and we feel that there is a drastic health risk. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned that you think it needs an EIR. Specifically, why? What?
We believe that an EIR would not only give us the level of investigation that we feel is necessary for the air quality portions. We believe that the wildlife is affected greatly. We have a cumulative effect going on with all these projects. We weren't aware of 1509, but that adds another 352 acres just another mile or two away. We feel that in addition...
You say you feel, and that's fine. Specifically, have you got any studies or any specific items that you can call out that would trigger an environmental impact report?
We feel that the plot of land that was addressed in 1993 and then again twice after that by the Dustbusters is unstable. We're not going to be given an opportunity to see enough detail on that unless we get an EIR. We have the health impacts to our residents. We don't feel that we've had an adequate amount of time to do the research that we would have liked to have done. Most people got notification on the 6th of December, which did not give us a full 30 days to do our investigations.
You do understand that the legal noticing requirement for this project has been met, however.
Pardon me, I can't.
You do understand that the legal noticing requirements of the state law have been met on this project. Has been advertised properly, has been noticed properly. So
well, like I said, we would like to have a continuance so that we have an adequate amount of time to do some more.
And that's what staff's recommending too.
Right.
Very good. All right, thank you. Appreciate your comments, Ms. Dawson. Next speaker, please.
Alan Carley.
Mr. Carley. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm a local contractor, which I think putting the solar on house roofs is a real good idea, and that's a good ordinance to pass through. And I know that's not what we're talking about at the moment, though. But the solar fields are built right where we've already had dust issues repeatedly. We went to a meeting not 6 months ago where the city of Los Angeles patted themselves on the back because of the berms, and they brought in all that mulch, trying to stop some of the dust from the area. And at the meeting, I said, well, what happens when
That's
they put
the
the
county,
solar plant?
right? The county?
No, it was in Antelope Acres. They
No,
had,
I'm trying to clarify. The mulch that was installed west of 95th, south of F, was installed by the county, you say?
Yes, they put in berms.
I just wanted to clarify that. I'm familiar with that. I've walked it, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. And those berms were designed to stop it, and they were talking about how good they did with them and how we should all use the mulch. And that's a great idea, but if you put a solar field down and tear out what they just are so proud that they fixed, it's not really going to be a big benefit. It's going to be a lot of sand. I don't even see how they're going to build there on blow sand. Because blow sand, you drive out there with a vehicle, you get stuck. Tow trucks out there all the time getting even four-wheel drives out. It's blow sand. I think really they should do a study on the kind of soil they're trying to work on. and they might decide it's too difficult to put the solar plant in there anyways. But it will definitely cause a dust issue. I already have a lung issue from last time when we had all the dust come through there. I've seen the dust so thick where you can't see your hand in front of your face from blowing through that field. It's better today, but not cured. But if it's tore up, it's really going to be a problem. I'm totally for veterans having jobs. I'm totally for the solar expanding. Solar power's a good thing, but not when you put it in the wrong place. And it should be considered at the place you're putting it. And if any of you lived there, you would have a different opinion on your vote. But since the plant's where we are, it's harder for anybody else to appreciate. So I think that should be considered.
If you notice, we haven't voted yet.
Okay, well, great. But yeah, that's where I'm letting my opinion out before you do. And I think you're voting very soon. So yeah, it is something that I think they should consider a little further, the kind of soil and where they're putting it. So
very good, Mr. Crowley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Judith Fuentes.
I didn't hear the last name clearly.
Fuentes.
Fuentes.
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome.
I wrote a letter. Y'all have it. I forgot to include that I would be worried about the economic value of my home because of the projects. This is for both. What could be done about this? Why hasn't S-Power talked to someone in our town council or given a presentation there? Why is there such a rush at this time of the year to get the job done? What if I get sick, or my family or neighbors get sick because of the dust, the air quality, or the EMF? Is there any kind of recourse? We're right downwind. Why doesn't Lancaster be a good neighbor? It used to be that the attractiveness of Lancaster was as you approached it through the countryside from north, east, and west. This was in the Outlook in 1989 or 90. Do you want to ruin it? Now, to get to the Poppy Reserve, you go through fields of solar. They're more like seas. Put it on homes, buildings, parking lots. Not there. Not in Antelope Acres. Plus, all other solar sites look like prisons. Landscaping is lacking on the others. And I would like to know, what will the projects do different from the others, if anything? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please, Mr. Ludicky.
Joshua Murphy.
Mr. Murphy, welcome.
I want to thank the council for allowing me to speak. Please forgive me if I'm a little nervous. I've never done anything like this before.
Just relax. We've done it a lot.
My wife and I just bought a house in Antelope Acres and haven't actually gotten a chance to get to know anybody here yet, but we fell in love with our neighbors. And one of the things we've learned is that Antelope Acres is a family. But I have to tell you that if I knew that this project was coming in, I wouldn't have bought my house there. So I can tell you from my own heart that people that own houses in Antelope Acres are going to take a big hit. I can guarantee you there's a lot of lots that are still for sale, and those lots are going to be hard to sell. Property values for anybody that wants to sell, it's not, for lack of a better way to put it, it's not fair for people to take a loss on their house because of a project like this. I can't and I won't subscribe to the idea that the benefits to the many of sustainable energy outweigh the quality of living of my neighbors. There's no question that sustainable renewable energy, when properly planned and done, it benefits everybody, but it doesn't belong in our backyards. I question the health effects. I was looking at the map on the way here, and at the far northwest corner of the project, there's a multitude of homes that I would say are less than half a mile directly downwind. Anybody who's spent any time in the acres knows that the wind never stops. So to me, those families, those homes are looking at serious health issues. I'd like to thank the Sergeant Major. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. As a veteran myself, your service means more to me than words can say. Thank you. And I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, Mr. Klein. The idea of helmets to hard hats is an awesome thing. It's to be commended. But please don't use veterans as a vehicle to push an agenda or a project. We can put those veterans to work wherever the sites are. So I would ask the council just to consider that this isn't the right site for it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Next speaker, please.
Yes, William Yates.
Mr. Yates, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
I don't have any particular complaints about solar. The complaint that I have is the loss of open space and the damage to our environment in Antelope Acres. I bought my home in 1986. Since that time, I've spent countless hours in these open spaces to the west of the acres. I've walked literally hundreds of miles up and down, back and forth. A great tragedy was when they put a solar field into the dunes south of Avenue G. It's a beautiful place, very calm, very peaceful, great for watching wildlife. I've seen everything from eagles to mountain bluebirds. The environment there is destroyed. You know, I can't even walk over there anymore. Chain link fences, you know, the sea of solar panels. I would hate to see that take place in what is essentially our backyard. You know, the value of open space can't be overlooked, you know, and I would ask all of you to take a drive down Avenue K some morning out west, and when you get to 90th Street, look to your left up the hill towards the aqueduct and see if you think that that's an attractive vista. We don't. Turn right on 110th Street and drive up past Avenue G, drive up to Avenue D, and look around. It's open space, it's desert. To us, it's beautiful. And I don't believe that solar is an appropriate neighbor to the residents of Antelope Acres. So I would hope that the commission would base their decision more on people than on profit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Another speaker, Mr. Ludicky.
Yes, Maureen Feller.
Is it Feller, did you say?
Feller.
Feller. Evening, Ms. Feller. Welcome.
Good evening. I was just out walking in our deserts about an hour and a half ago. That's why my hair's looking so good. But, you know, 2,400 new homes.
Careful talking about hair.
Yeah, really.
Not much.
2,400 new homes accompanying schools, parks, and shopping centers were announced last year when we were told we couldn't water our front lawns. And now we have miles of solar. I mean, I have walked the west side, I've walked the east side. We don't have as much solar over there. I'm not sure I understand why. But I'm not sure if even stopping the ones we're talking about tonight is going to make a difference. We are losing our open spaces to miles of solar. We just had an environmental scientist up here, what was it, a year ago, who did a study on valley fever. So y'all know about that. You all know the risk it brings. My family, I've had it in my family, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. We have a lot of landscape promised around these places, and yet if you go down G, you'll notice every season it dies, and then a year goes by, and then they come out and they replant those $2 trees again, and then somebody forgets to water them, and another season goes by and they die. We don't have landscaping going on any plant out there. I can assure you, I watched the new ones out on 110th and J die and get replanted again just recently. So I don't know if you guys even bother driving out there. Let me see what other notes I've made here. You want to talk jobs? You know, I don't know if people understand how many tax dollars are going into these solar fields. If we had put solar on our rooftops, if we had had a city initiative to make it truly affordable, you know, we get a lot of, we'll come put it on your roof, but you might get 5 cents cheaper off, you know, whatever. We have no infrastructure to put excess back on the grid. But that would have guaranteed long-term, high-paying jobs. There shouldn't have been a solar field approved until that happens. Everything out there is going to be obsolete in 5 years. I hope you all realize that. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. You think you're saving someone's environment, but it's not ours. Okay? Ours is being sacrificed. Thank you.
Thank you. To answer your question regarding why there's less solar fields on the east side, or on the west side as opposed to the east, Jocelyn?
So on the east side, the size of the substations is not big enough to accommodate basically the solar loads, and the amount of upgrades required in order to install a solar facility and connect it into the grid up until this point has been cost prohibitive.
And that's Edison's.
That's Edison's grid. Antelope substation is quite large and has the capacity where, like the substation at J and 90th East, doesn't necessarily have that same capacity.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, Ginger Stout.
Ms. Stout.
It's better to the side, or
Just move to the side.
will that work? Will that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can pull it down if you want. It might be a little easier for you.
Does this work? Okay. That
We can
works.
hear you just fine, Ms. Stout. Go
Thank
right
you.
ahead.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank Jocelyn Swain and the planners for caring enough about the projects that they do to realize that with the amount of correspondence that they've received, that they really need time to actually review it themselves. And so I want to thank you for asking for an extension, which is what I represent the Antelope Acres Town Council, and that is what we came prepared to do. And also to ask to speak with Mr. Bean. Mr. Glary has not come out and addressed us. We don't know much about the project except what we read in the mitigated negative deck. The county asks him to come out and talk to us, and we'd like to invite him to please come out and and perhaps you could give him a little nudge. That might help. All right, anyway,
That's
thank
right
you.
where it is. He's been there before.
Yes, for other, this is not his only project, believe me. And as you know, well, congratulations also on the net zero housing. That is exactly what I envisioned when solar first became, the talked about project, this idea of filling up, the desert from here to Vegas and into there.
and destroying the environment so that we see nothing but acres and miles of dead zone was not what I envisioned. And the jobs that are created were not temporary migrant jobs where you move from state to state and solar field to solar field when they're something, but maintaining and putting solar on homes. I wished I had it on my home. On that. So anyway, the mandatory findings of significance, does the project have the potential to degrade the quality of the environment? It says that yes, it's less than significant with mitigation, but the mitigation mentioned is really no mitigation at all. You can't, what's already been addressed is the dust problem. Certain on that. That has been seeded over by the dust busters to produce native vegetation in order to keep the dust down. I live less than half a mile from that site, and I'm quite aware of everything that goes on there, and I've been greatly impacted by the dust and have been involved in countless efforts to mitigate that problem out there on that, just to have it torn up and start all over again and find out what works and then it doesn't work and on that and gone on that. So you can't, there's nothing that addresses the loss of the amounts of wildflower seeds. It's a marvelously beautiful area for tidy tips and for gold fields and for poppies out there. Tourists drive down that area. The aesthetics, it mentions that we won't even notice it. And I will look straight out my F4, and I will not even be able to see Antelope Butte, which is adjacent to Fairmont Butte, which is the Poppy Reserve, which normally is ablaze in orange. I can't imagine having to look out over miles of solar panels. Won't be able to see that. That will be destroyed on that. Also, because Lancaster gerrymanders its borders all around Antelope Acres, it does divide our community. It's separating it. It is making an incredible impact.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stout.
And the last point is it does it have the cumulative effects? And it says that's barely addressed at all. Is the cumulative effects and you know the future on that is on that. And that is what is really the destruction that everyone's been talking about. It isn't one, but all of them put together as you. Okay, thank you very much.
You want to adjust the podium, please? And call the next one. Yes. Adjust the podium, please.
I will. Tamara Combs.
Evening, Ms. Combs.
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome.
Excuse me.
I'm sure it's okay.
Well, no.
That would be better. Thank you
Did he
so
break
much.
it?
What can I say?
Can't take you anywhere.
Chairman Voss and council members, I appreciate the
We're
opportunity.
commissioners, we're not council members. We're appointed, not
Commissioners?
elected.
Thank you for hearing all of our voices from Antelope Acres. I have lived there since 2003. I've had 2 dogs die of valley fever. We know it is there. I've seen dust so thick during construction that even after construction, actually, that we could not drive safely in it. There is a school directly downwind from this project. Property values is a real concern of mine. I held on when the bubble broke, and I hoped that I would see us be able to reclaim values in our property. This is not going to help us. I appreciate the staff taking a deeper look into our concerns. And I would encourage the commissioners to look into their own hearts and try to imagine our children and the people living in our area and what impact it's going to have upon us. There are a lot of retired elderly people that are particularly susceptible to valley fever. I would like to see a study done as to how viable this project is in this area. And as far as Edison building those huge power transmission lines, I have an MBA, You do not make decisions in business based on sunk costs. They could easily move some of that transmission over to the east side where there are a lot more, or a lot less residents that would be impacted, and schools, and besides which the wind patterns there take it away from residents on the east side, not directly through their yards, their windows. It's a really serious situation, and I appreciate the time and effort that has gone into this, and I hope that we'll see more of that in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. Got another speaker?
Yes, Linda Ford.
Ms. Ford, welcome.
I want to first off say to Jocelyn Swain how I appreciate her conversing with me and helping me with this. I live right on, my husband and I and our family live right on F8 and 93rd. It is a huge impact for our lifestyle. I have lived out in the Antelope Acres since 1983. I have been in the Antelope Valley since about 1978. Lived in White Fence, El Dorado Farms area previously, and wanted to live in a more affordable rural area in Antelope Acres. This is going to impact our lives, our health, our community, our ability to have higher income housing in our areas. It's going to turn us into basically more of a Lake Los Angeles type of area. Right now, everybody loves this area, the ruralness that we have. I feed the quail. I feed the birds. They come in from 93rd, from the desert. They come across 93rd. They go under my gate, over my fence. They fly over my house. They come under my gate in my front. They come 3 times a day. How are we protecting our state bird? How are we protecting our state flower? By destroying all this land. I'm for solar. My son worked for solar. He got a job. The jobs are not permanent. They're temporary. They lose a job, they go on unemployment, then they need to find another job if it's available. It's not necessarily always a career. I've seen my son go through this. He put in the solar by Del Sur. I had no idea at that time how they would impact our lives, and especially directly our community that we have. It's just going to devalue our homes and devalue our lives. There's so much other space. I'm all for putting it on top of your house. I'm all for LA, them putting it on top of their buildings. There are other avenues that can be taken. We don't have to destroy our desert this way. I just feel like it's rampant. It's out of control. It's too much. It needs to be planned better, and that's hopefully what maybe you people can do for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Any other speakers?
That's it.
Mr. Bean. I don't think I have to say it, do I?
I think we'll be making a trip out to the town council pretty soon.
There you go. Thank you.
Any other questions from there? No?
Ms. Swain, can you give us, collectively us, a quick rundown on our state's requirement for renewable energy source?
Okay, there's actually a couple.
And why our mayor and city council are so interested in a zero net energy and the expansion of industrial solar within our community, within our city limits.
Well, there's a couple of things. First, the state of California has a renewable portfolio standard. And that standard specifies how much renewable power a utility, whether that's a Southern California Edison, a PG&E, or an entity like the LCE, or Department of Water and Power for the City of Los Angeles. And that means that they're required by 2020 to obtain 33% of all of their power from a renewable energy source, whether that's wind, solar, geothermal. There's a variety of them, but they have to get 33% by 2020. Earlier this year, a law went into effect that raised that standard. So they still have to meet the 33% by 2020, but now they're also required to hit 50% by 2030. So a lot of what you see in terms of the solar or the wind going in is in response to mandates that the state has set for utilities. It's not optional for them. They have to obtain that power from a renewable source by that date. With respect to the city of Lancaster, the city has a goal of becoming a net zero or zero net energy city by a certain date. And what that what means is constantly evolving. And, you know, as new ideas or new initiatives are passed, that's constantly changing. Currently, we have a goal of 530 megawatts to hit our total need for a 24-hour period. If that's going to change, not change, I don't know. In addition to that, there's only so much alternative energy, so much solar that you can put on rooftops. That energy is behind the meter, so it typically supports the building in which it was installed. And there are limits to how much a utility can allow that net zero energy to be within their service territory, and I don't know what that specific amount is. It's generally estimated about 5%. What that equates to in terms of megawatts will vary from service territory to service territory. Not all structures are capable of supporting solar, or they have energy needs that exceed what their building structure can accommodate. And so that's where you start needing some of this utility scale solar.
Do we have any idea what the current utility scale solar within our city limits is scheduled to produce on the approved projects, or the?
I do track that information, but I don't have it with me.
It's less than 530 megawatts, however.
In terms of solar that's actually been constructed, yes, it's less than 530.
Right.
I don't know where we are and what we've approved, not approved.
But what is actually in the ground and producing energy?
In the ground producing, but it's probably about 150 megawatts. We do have projects currently under construction, which would change that total. But I don't know where we are at specifically.
And there's no measurement of the capacity of rooftop solar within the city limits. We don't.
I actually do track that, not in terms of capacity, but what's been installed. I do not have that with me currently, but I do have it.
Oh, you get that off the building permits?
Correct. So I actually track on a monthly basis the building permits issued for residential and commercial solar, and that the permits that are finalized, so that means actually built, because we can issue solar permits, but not all of them actually get constructed. So I track both.
Right. Some of those facilities are leased, some are owned
Some of
out.
what?
Some of the structures are leased, some of them are built, owned outright.
Mm-hmm.
Some are under contract, whatever it be. I would be interested in knowing what's currently constructed in the industrial scale, what's been approved, and what's being generated from rooftops, just to have an idea of where we are as a community.
Okay.
Meeting the objectives that the city council has set.
I can do that.
I mean, that's readily available, more or less.
It is, just not with me at
Between
the
now and
moment.
next month?
Between now and next month, it is available.
There you go. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Just a reminder, there are a couple of veterans up here. I am one. My colleague on my left certainly is. Although she served in the Air Force, but I won't hold that against her. At any rate, so shall we keep the public hearing open and continue this item? If that's your pleasure, folks. All right, may I have a motion to continue then?
To the January meeting, correct?
I'm assuming the January meeting, is that adequate time to address
Yes, which would be Tuesday, January 17th.
Can I make the motion for both items, or should they be two separate motions?
I would take them together.
Good. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we continue conditional use permit 16-02A, 16-02B, 16-07A, and 16-07B to the January, did you say 17th?
Yes.
17th, 2017 meeting.
Second that.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything further? Staff knows what we're looking for.
Yes, we do.
All right. Very good. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0. Items will be placed on the January 17th meeting agenda.
And they'll be first on the agenda since they are continued public hearing. We start at 6 p.m. on January 17th, 2017. Appreciate all of you folks making comment tonight. You're certainly welcome to stay. We have another business item. Won't take too much longer. Next item then is new business, which is conditional use permit 15-09. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this item. This is an application by Sustainable Power to renumber a conditional use permit of a previously approved action item last year, I believe.
Yes. Very briefly, Chairman Vos, members of the commission, this is a PV solar project that was approved actually a year ago, December of 2015. As you've noticed in some of the applications that have come before you, for financing purposes, at times conditional use permits are requested to be separated out. This has to do with the financing mechanisms that and the investor issues with solar at times. What is before you is not a change in what you approved, but a request to break that for financial purposes into two separate conditional use permit approvals. And we would recommend that you adopt the resolutions indicating that.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
There is one card that indicated item 5.
All right.
In speaking, Joshua Murphy.
Mr. Murphy. Nope. All right then. Thank you. All right. Anything from members? Further from staff? No. All right, then it's appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 16-16, renumbering a portion of CUP number 1509 as CUP number 15-09A. And also, in addition, Adopt Resolution Number 16-17, renumbering a portion of CUP Number 15-09 as CUP Number 15-09B.
I'll
That's a
second
mouthful.
that.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That concludes our action items tonight. Director's announcements.
You had already indicated, I believe, in the invocation, the departure of a couple of our staff. I'd like to reiterate that Chun Ing, our principal planner, who has been with us now for, 11 years, has accepted a position in Santa Maria. He's well deserving of that, and we wish him well on his departure to a new frontier.
We didn't get to vote on the opportunity that he's leaving, however.
I'm voting no. I'm sorry.
I second that.
You're voting with your shoe leather? Fine.
If I may, Chairman,
Certainly.
Commissioners, this is my last Planning Commission meeting, and I've been here 11 years. It's been a very rewarding time here. I owe my thanks to a lot of people. At one point in my career, I had thought that I would model myself after Mr. Ludicky and serve 33 or 44 years, something like that. But I've only made it a third of the way or a fourth of the way. But even with that, Brian's been a tremendous mentor to me, and I've learned so much from him, as well as other colleagues. And the commission has been, this is a great commission, and I know sometimes we make difficult decisions, and we have to weigh different priorities, and this commission does a very good job of weighing the facts and being sensitive to our residents and make decisions that are in the end best for our city. And individually, all of you have been nothing but courteous and friendly, and I am personally touched by that, and I owe a lot of thanks to each of you individually, and so I just wanted to say that, and some of you I'll continue to be in touch, by social media or whatever means, and so I just want to thank the commission, thank my colleagues, thank the city for the time that I've had here. It's been very, very good.
Well said. Thank you. Anything further?
Yes, just a couple of business items, Mr. Chairman. The ZNE ordinance, which you recommended approval of tonight to the City Council, is scheduled to be on their January 10th agenda. So I expect that they will begin discussion of that at that time. And you may recall several months ago, the Commission made a recommendation on an ordinance that removes minimum parking requirements in the city's commercial zones. The Council did adopt a second reading on that at their meeting last Tuesday evening, and that will now become effective in January, and we will have made that what I consider to be a very important change into that code.
Another notch, Chun. So is that going to be your first challenge in Santa Maria to adjust their commercial parking ordinance?
No, I'm going to adjust to better weather. That's my first. But other than that, I think I have a lot of people to get to know, stakeholders, elected and appointed officials, and new staff to work with. So it's going to be an adventure.
All the best. All right, public business from the floor. This portion of the agenda allows the public an opportunity to address the commission on non-agenda items. So if you would like to address the commission on any non-agendized item, please fill out a speaker's card, and we will call upon you. Anyone would like to speak to us on any non-agenda item? None? All right, then. Anything further, Mr. Ludicky?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. So, all right, then, the meeting stands adjourned to a special meeting for agenda review Monday, January 9, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. in the Park Recreation Arts Conference Room here at City Hall. Thank you all for your participation.